In this video, I want to explain why investing in a good teleprompter can help you make videos even faster and more professional. I'll also review and compare two of my favorite teleprompters, one being the newly released Andycine T11 and the ever popular Padcaster Parrot Teleprompter. Let's get right into it. So why would you want a teleprompter in the first place? Well, if you're into video content creation like me, teleprompters can introduce efficiencies into your workflow and help with presentations. If you're anything like me when it comes to speaking in front of the camera, it's very hard, and I often say I have to say the same line or sentence 100 times just to get it right. This really makes the whole filming process really long and exhausting. I also find that teleprompters help me deliver a more streamlined, condensed, straightforward message to my audience. There's no more ramblings about my personal life and going off topic, and there's much less likes, and those types of pauses. You can even take a hybrid approach when it comes to recording with a teleprompter. So what do I mean by that? Well, instead of reading directly off a script, you can use a teleprompter as a cue card or reminder notes. I find that having my bullet points in front of the camera instead of to the side like on a laptop makes it a lot easier to improvise and reduces errors or going off topic. It's also a really good tool if you have a specific time constraint for your video. This becomes especially helpful when you're doing sponsored or educational content. However, despite all the benefits of using a teleprompter, there are some downsides that I noticed over the years of using this type of tool. Number one, yes, a teleprompter does dramatically shorten the process of filming, but the preparation is quite extensive. Let's face it, it's so much easier and faster to scribble a bunch of notes on a piece of paper and just wing it in front of the camera. It takes a serious amount of time to write a script in spoken word rather than an essay, which in itself is a very difficult task. The second downside is that when you use a teleprompter, it's not that easy, to be honest. Especially when you're kind of new to it. It takes a lot of deliberate skill and practice. You got to read your script out loud, otherwise you'll be fumbling in front of the camera or looking pretty awkward. Thirdly, the last thing, there's just extra setup and fiddling with more gear. And that can be kind of annoying when you're just trying to get set up and running and you just want to film something really quickly. In the end, it all really depends on my mood. If I feel really creative or I want to improvise that day, I'll just go ahead, write a quick script and just wing it in front of the camera. But if I'm feeling kind of lazy and tired and, it still take a lot of work to write the script, I'll just use the teleprompter and then record in front of that. So for the first teleprompter I want to introduce, it's the Andycine T11. And this is a newly released teleprompter. It supports both phones and tablets up to 11 inches. Now, right off the bat, I have to say I really like kind of like the presentation, the unboxing experience. It comes with a really nice hard case that totally fits everything. And one of the things about cases is that sometimes it's really hard to kind of fit everything inside because it's really tight. Well, this case is big enough to include everything, and it's not a hassle to unpack it and just put everything in the case. So really good hard case, and that's really important because you do have a high quality glass that makes it easy to obviously see the text on the screen and shoot through it. But that's something that you want to really protect, and I'm really happy that I included a case. Now, one really important spec you need to know prior to purchasing this teleprompter is the lens support. So your lens has a thread, and it's going to say how much, how big the size is. And my Sigma 24 to 70 millimeter f2.8 for the Sony lens is at 82 millimeters. So this supports anywhere from 49 to 82 millimeters. So that's quite a wide range support. Now the Parrot teleprompter goes all the way down to 37 all the way to 82 millimeter support. But when it's going such a small size, that's going to really introduce field of view type of issues. We're going to talk about that later, but it's kind of hard to use a wide angle lens on the Padcaster. And one of my favorite things about this Andycine teleprompter that I immediately love was that I was able to go all the way down to kind of 25 to 30 millimeters to get a much wider field of view without all that vignetting or kind of like obstructions on the side of the lens. We'll do a little test about that, but this is one of the main reasons why to pick this over the Padcaster. The only thing that's missing is the optional support rod, but you only really need that if you're going to be using a really large and heavy tablet as your teleprompter. So as you can see in this video, it's really easy to assemble this teleprompter kit. It's really easy to unfold it and put everything together, and then you can mount your phone, or you can just mount it directly on your lens for your camera. So the whole setup process is really easy and really straightforward, you can see over here. After you screwed on the phone or tablet clamp to the base of the teleprompter, you'll need to stick on the Velcro attached hood. You can see how I can easily mount an actual smartphone to record with the teleprompter. You'll need to use the included 72mm lens ring and the foam bit to make a smartphone adapter. Behind the teleprompter, you'll need to screw in and adjust a phone clamp so that your camera's sensor isn't obstructed. It's pretty cool how you can mount this teleprompter on a regular mirrorless camera, but also a smartphone. You'll notice that my Samsung S20 has no obstructions to its buttons, so it makes it really easy to operate behind the smartphone camera. Another nice design choice for the Andycine T11 teleprompter is that it has many mounting options. There are a variety of 1/4-inch threads and cold shoe adapters around the unit. If you're using a heavy tablet for your teleprompter, you can of course attach a support rod or even a tripod right underneath the teleprompter, which helps support the entire unit, and this gives you a lot more mounting flexibility. For example, this can be really helpful if I'm filming with my Sony ZV-1, which doesn't have a threaded lens to mount a ring adapter. Quick pause. I just want to say that this video is sponsored by Timebolt, which is a really cool, innovative piece of software that lets you talk in front of a teleprompter for a long time and then cut out all the dead air and all the dead silence. More on them just at the end of this video. Okay, so let's get into a comparison between these two teleprompters. Now, the Padcaster is super compact. I really like how small it is, and it's really high quality and does a great job. In fact, both these teleprompters are super high quality. I've had no issues with kind of picture degradation or anything like that. The only thing I didn't like about the Padcaster was its setup process, and of course, the major vignetting at a wide angle lens. This is much better. Like I said before, if you're using a wide angle lens like 24 millimeters, you definitely want to pick this one instead, because you basically just can't use the Padcaster Parrot Teleprompter on a wide lens because you have so much vignetting and it looks really bad. So you have to zoom in all the way and then you get a really tight shot, and then you have to put the camera really far away in order to get a wider shot, but then you can't see because it's a really small screen. So it's really difficult to actually use the Padcaster Teleprompter. So with the Parrot Teleprompter, there was a major pain in the butt every time I wanted to set this up, and it has to do with the mounting mechanism. You actually have to use this spring-loaded you have to pull it down, and then you have to try and fit your phone inside. And if you have a screen protector on your phone or anything like that, or you have buttons to the side, it presses the buttons or it peels off the screen protector, and it's quite a jarring process to put this to actually mount your phone onto the teleprompter. So I really didn't like the setup. It kind of prevented me from using it very often because, you know, it's if you want to grab your phone and adjust something, you have to pull it out. So it was a really cumbersome setup. Now with the Andycine teleprompter, as you can see in this video, I'm going to show it right now. It is so easy to mount your phone. You just plop it in there. You don't even need to tighten it or anything like that. And this makes it so much easier to just kind of like make minor adjustments. Maybe you want to adjust the scrolling speed, or you want to use your smartphone for other things like take a phone call or set some settings or something like that. Way easier to use this teleprompter. Now, one of the biggest reasons why you may want to choose this one over the smaller Parrot teleprompter is simply for the big size, no pun intended. So this is, 11 inches. This is a really small, tiny screen. So being able to view and see your text more clearly, especially when your camera's mounted a little bit further away, that is a major advantage for this one. Now, I will admit, it is a little difficult to mount a tablet on this. You kind of do need the support rod because it's going to be too much. It's going to be too heavy on the tripod, just hanging off your lens. So I actually didn't use my tablet as much when I was using this. Now, what's really cool is you can use your phone, but you can use your phone at the full length. So a lot of phones these days, they can get really wide, right? They can obviously get very tall, like my Samsung S20 is super tall. Now with the Padcaster, you have very limited screen real estate. Even if you have a phone, you're not going to be using the full screen real estate of your phone. So at least with the Andycine teleprompter, I can use the full width of my phone, the full height of my phone, and see more. I can see more text. So it's already a lot bigger, and I much prefer to use my phone than use a tablet because it's just a lot easier to mount it, take it on, take it off. And right now I'm using my tablet as a really nice big monitor. So it's the best of both worlds, to be honest. So you get more screen real estate even if you use a phone with the Andycine teleprompter. Now, comparing the two remotes, I have to give a little bit more bigger edge to the Andycine teleprompter remote because it's powered by two AA batteries rather than the kind of like the flat cell battery, which is kind of annoying and hard to get. At least these can be rechargeable, so if you ever run out, you can just quickly swap in AAA batteries. And I find that it's more ergonomic, it's more intuitive to use. It has a nice slider, a button over here. It has all these buttons, so it gives you a lot more options. Whereas this one here, it's really nice and compact and slim, and I like it, but it's very clicky, right? And then this one, more quiet. So if you're filming yourself and you want to like maybe go covertly change the text over here, you don't really hear it as much with this one. A nice little bonus with the Andycine T11 case is that you can obviously travel with this because it's so hard and durable, and it's really going to protect the glass for your teleprompter, whereas the Padcaster Parrot Teleprompter just has some protective covers on the front and on the back over here. So that's pretty good, but obviously if you're going to be throwing this into a case, you might want to wrap it into something really soft so that it doesn't like get crushed or anything. But yeah, so a little bit bonus to the Andycine teleprompter. So let's talk about the app. Now, unfortunately at the time, since this is a new release, they didn't have the Android app available on the Google Play Store. So I wasn't able to fully test everything yet, but I will update this review and show you how the whole app works and everything like that. Now, there are some really good alternative apps out there. And one of my favorite apps that I newly purchased is the Smartprompt Pro. And it's a really cool because it uses your voice to actually track where you're moving. So it's a really good app. It works pretty well so that you don't have to like kind of keep, a consistent scroll and you have to keep reading. It just follows the natural progression of your voice. So I really recommend that. It is quite expensive and it's a yearly subscription, about like 30 USD a year. So that's quite costly, especially if your YouTube career is going to last for, multiple decades. So how do you act natural when talking in front of a teleprompter? I'll be honest, this was really, really difficult for me. And it was extremely difficult with the Padcaster Teleprompter because it was so small. I was constantly squinting and, because I had to zoom in and get the tighter field of view. So I had to put the camera further away and it was just really, really difficult. With the Andycine teleprompter, it's a little bit more natural. It's a little bit further away, so it's easier to see. It can look weird when you're reading in front of a teleprompter, especially if you're just kind of reading off a script. It doesn't look very natural. You're kind of looking into dead space. You're squinting a lot. Your eyes are moving left to right, and it's really hard to kind of make it feel natural. So there are some solutions for that. The first major solution is to practice, and I mean really read your script out loud. If you don't read it out loud, you're not going to be able to find all the mistakes or the kind of weird things that you've kind of written down, because trust me, the way I type, the way I write an essay versus the way I talk is fundamentally different. So it's a skill in itself to actually write a script that sounds like you're speaking, but you also just need to practice. So read out loud. I can't stress that enough. And if you have tongue twisters or you have like constant repetition of the same consonant, you really need to rewrite that sentence, because if you fumble it just practicing, it's going to be way more difficult when you're in front of the camera. Another tip is to keep the camera as far as you possibly can, so without squinting, because the closer you are to the camera, the more the audience can see your eyes moving left to right. See, keep moving further out so you don't look like they're moving. So I'm reading off the script. Right now I'm just having the script in front of me. I'm having these bullet points. I'm not really reading off a script. I'm just improvising, but I have these bullet points in front of me, kind of like the hybrid approach I talked about earlier. Another practical tip when it comes to using a teleprompter is to add natural pauses, intonations, and kind of maybe look away from the camera. You kind of want to fake it. You want to fake it that you're improvising as you speak. So add those natural pauses and maybe ums just to make it sound more natural and improvised. So overall, what do I think about scripting versus improvising? Now, improvising is a lot of fun because you can just really speak kind of like whatever you want to say, but you do risk going off topic and rambling and talking a lot and not really giving a very concise or condensed message to your audience, which could waste time. And then writing scripts and in practicing it is just a very arduous process. Trust me, it takes so much time and effort. And then worst of all, when you start reading the script, it doesn't sound very natural, or maybe you just look kind of awkward. So all in all, I have to say, from my experience, I like to do a hybrid approach. Especially for the introductions, I much prefer to write a script, because the introduction is kind of the hardest part for me. It's so hard for me to just say the introduction, improvise it, and then continue on and talk, because I don't know, for some reason, the introduction is really difficult. But once I get the introduction, or maybe halfway through the script, I'm okay to improvise. I can start, I feel warmed up, I feel a little bit better. So, I feel more natural. So I'm able to improvise and kind of just use the rest of the video, the second half of the video, just to talk. Maybe you could hedge it. Maybe you can write half a script and then the other half you can just write bullet points and then kind of do what I'm doing. I've paused my teleprompter. I'm using the manual control so I can scroll up and down. I've increased the text size of the script so that I can see more, and I can make sure that I'm covering all the main bullet points. Obviously, right now I'm kind of going off topic, but I'm kind of explaining, what is the difference between writing a script and improvising? Well, you can do both, to be honest. And like I said before, it really depends on my mood. If I'm feeling tired and I don't feel like improvising, or I don't feel very particularly creative that day, I may opt to just write a script and then just film it through reading the entire script. But if it's a subject that I'm really passionate about and I really want to talk about it, it's very easy to naturally improvise and talk about it. As long as you have guided points and you're using the teleprompter as a notes, I really like improvising. So in the end, let's conclude this. Which one would I pick if I had the choice? Would I pick the Parrot Teleprompter or the Andycine T11? Well, I think by now you know that it's pretty obvious I would much prefer this one, especially with my camera setup. Having that wide angle lens and just being able to use a teleprompter that's further away with a bigger screen, it's honestly a lot easier. And I honestly would rather have a larger, maybe bulkier and harder to travel with. It's still really good because you got the case, but it's obviously bigger than the Parrot Teleprompter. This Parrot Teleprompter is quite impressive. Given how small and compact it is very adorable. It's a cute size, but in some cases, it's just not super practical. So I hands down much prefer the Andycine T11 Teleprompter. Anyways, that's it for this video. Please let me know in the comment section down below. What do you prefer? Do you prefer something that's really compact and small, or maybe a little bit bigger and easier on your eyes? Do you even use a teleprompter? I would love to know. Thanks for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. We can probably agree that video editing is a very fun and creative process, but let's face it, there are some tasks that are just so menial boring and labor intensive that we wish we could just outsource it or just simply not do at all. And a lot of that has to deal with cutting out dead air or silences in your A-roll talking head. Now, thankfully, Timebolt, which is a really cool piece of software that has recently come out, has made it really easy to cut out dead air in your footage. And this makes the whole process of creating content a lot more fun and more manageable, especially for one person. I've estimated the amount of hours I've saved using this piece of software, and based on that, it has definitely paid for itself more than 10 times. So I definitely think it's worth it, especially for the lifetime membership. I will leave a link in the description. If you do use my coupon code, it definitely does help this channel. Thanks for your support, and I will see you in the next video.